Welcome to the lesson on Charles Darwin and natural selection. In this video, we'll be introducing the theory of evolution, how Lamarck first explained evolution, how it was disproved by Weissmann, and how Charles Darwin developed the theory of natural selection to explain how species change over time. Let's just start out with what evolution is. Evolution is the alteration in the anatomy, biochemistry, or genetics of a population over time. It does not necessarily lead to bigger size, more intelligence, or organisms, for example, that have more speed. What causes this change? The first proposal of a mechanism for how evolution occurs was from Jean-Baptiste Lamarck. He came up with two ideas. The first was the law of use and disuse. If an individual uses a structure, it becomes stronger, and those changes are then passed on to the offspring. If a structure is not used, they will disappear. So this was Lamarck's first idea, the law of use and disuse. His second idea was the inheritance of acquired characteristic. That is, that traits acquired during an organism's life can be passed on. Lamarck unfortunately was disproved by August Weissmann, who did an experiment by cutting the tails off of mice. And what he showed was that those acquired characteristics, that is, shorter tails, were not inherited. So then came along Charles Darwin, and Lamarck's theories were superseded by Charles Darwin's theory of natural selection. This came with several key ideas. The first was the concept of overproduction. Organisms produce more offspring than the environment can support. Next idea, of course, is variation. These offspring, as a result, vary. Next, competition. Those variations make some survive better than others. Natural selection. The better adapted ones have more surviving offspring. And this leads to change over time. Populations shift over time. Darwin was unable to account for the origin of variation, but when the genetics was discovered by Gregor Mendel, it explained that missing piece as to how the variation took place. Selective pressure. Selective pressure determines the rate of evolution. If you have little selective pressure, you get slow or no evolution. If you have high selective pressure, evolution can go very quickly. And a great example of high selective pressure is antibiotic resistance in bacteria. How they can become resistant to antibiotics quickly and change to resist those antibiotics. Lastly, artificial selection. Artificial selection occurs when humans deliberately select particular traits, for example, selective breeding of dogs, cats, horses, food crops. It does not necessarily lead to better fitness. In fact, usually it doesn't. Now let's take a look at a video in which Hank elaborates more on Charles Darwin and the concept of natural selection.